What's up guys, welcome back to another video. So in this episode we're going to be working on getting the frame put together on the GTO. Now in the last video on the frame I pulled it out as much as I could and I cut off a good chunk of the front rail as well as the front rad support on the GTO. And now it's time to try to get this new piece back into the car. So first we're gonna start by trying to make a initial test fit, see what the front end, the new front end is gonna do when we try to put it up in there, see how far the rails are off, just get a basic understanding of what we're gonna have to do. So let's do that, and then I'll give you guys an update in a little bit. Okay, so I got the front end in pretty close to where it needs to be. So how I got it to be, in a decent spot is I have essentially like three points of reference on the front end, and referencing back to the car. So the first one is going to be this engine mount. Now the engine mount has 4 bolt holes on it. So the rear 2 I left on the original rail on the GTO, and then the front 2 I cut. So I basically cut the rail off in between the front 2 and the rear 2 bolts, and obviously I did the same when I cut it off of the parts car. So when I bolt that rail in, that's gonna position the front section of the rail, the new section, fairly well to where, at least I have a rough idea of this is roughly where it needs to be. And then there's also 2 more points on the rad support on the bottom. So between the engine cradles, there's like two sections. There's a little piece that goes up front, and then there's the main engine or cradle in the rear. And there's 2 tie bars that go front to back between the 2 sections. So the front section is actually on that new rad support. So basically I installed the 2 tie bars, and that positioned the bottom of the rad support where it needs to be as far as length from the engine cradle in the rear. So to position the top of the rad support, I actually just measured lengths between the headlight bolt holes and the strut towers on the parts car that I have, and I made them match here. So basically with those 3 points of reference, I'm very confident that the front end should be at least roughly in the correct spot. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to weld that passenger but driver side rail up, the one that I cut, the one that's being held together by the engine mount right now. So I'll weld a few spots on there, and then I'll pull the whole front end with the new rail, with the old, you know, with the original part of the rail that's going to move together now since it's welded, and I'll pull it up to match up with the rail on the other side. So let's do that. So there's the car with the hood on it. Now, the hood fit okay. I had to, obviously, as you guys saw, I had to hammer out the hinge where it mounts. That was bent down because when they pushed the hood, it pushed the hinge like that. It looks pretty good. The only issue is, you see how that doesn't line up? This here is supposed to be right there. And I have done all the measurements that I could, and it seems like just that front end needs to be just pulled that way until that actually lines up. It's off about the same amount. So if you look here, you could see that fender bolt hole, you know, with respect to the hood's not blocking it. But on this side, it's way down under there. So that means that we just gotta pull the front end over. And if we, I think, pull it over by that much down here, everything should line up and it should be good. So let's get to yanking. I think I'm just gonna leave this hood down and just throw a chain on that rail on that side over here and just pull it until that closes. And then I'll have to pull it kind of probably double this. So I'll have to actually pull this front end until this latch is all the way on this side, because it's gonna spring back quite a bit. So just have to account for that. And you know, it doesn't hurt to do it a couple times versus just pulling it way too far and then you're gonna have to pull it back. So that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna go slowly with it. But the rail is all welded in. Well, not all welded in. The rail is kind of tacked in here. So I have this side welded and the top side welded. And the bottom on this side isn't, and the inside isn't. And then this side, I just have the top welded, and then I put a spot weld on the bottom so that it doesn't twist with regards to, you know, this rail with regards to the new rail. So when I pull it, you know, it just kind of all pulls together. And then I just have a couple spot welds. I have this spot weld welded up on this side, and then I got two or three. I got three, I think. Yeah, welded up on this side, just so it, you know, kind of stays together. So let's pull this out. Once we get the front end straight, I think this last pull, and it should be pretty good after that. The only thing left is gonna be obviously welding up all these spot welds and welding up the rails, and then I have to weld these aprons back up to these headlight housing brackets or whatever the hell they're called, to that rad support. So, you know, we're getting there slowly, but we will get there. Well, I was done messed up. So this rad support, it's off of a Dodge Stealth. Now, I figured that, you know, they did the little change on, I figured that they changed the bumper, you know, whatever, changed the headlights a little bit. I believe they're different. I'm not 100% sure. But I didn't think that they actually changed this rad support. But unfortunately they did. So that means that I welded the wrong front end onto the GTO. That's not good. So that means that I do have the part out, the same car that, you know, the hood came off of, the headlights. That is a 3000 GT. So I already went and I cut off the rad support on there. I drilled it out. So that means that right now I gotta swap this out. Now I'm just swapping out just like the headlight buckets and this top piece of the rad support. The bottom piece is gonna stay, as well as obviously the rails. I'm not gonna be, you know, removing the rails. So it's not too bad, but it does really freaking suck, because I thought I would be able to get this thing finished up today and, you know, at least weld it up and, you know, everything right, but now I gotta do this. So, you know, let's get into it. so I got the front end welded up. So in the next video, we're going to be repainting the engine bay. I'm going to try to get as much painted as possible on this thing, just to kind of make it look as clean as possible once it's done. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for more progress on the GTO, as well as some other salvage car projects that I'm just doing quick time lapses. Hopefully it's satisfying for you guys to watch, but it's basically like 10-15 minutes time lapses of car from the auction wrecked to ready for sale, all finished up. So thank you guys, see you in the next video.